probably loved comics as a kid. I know I did. But in the USSR, where I was born, we had only one kind of comic, caricatures of America. Every day after school, I'd pull the newspaper from the mailbox and flip straight to the cartoons, hoping to find greedy capitalists, evil Uncle Sam, or white-robed clan members plotting to take over the world. Hi, I'm Elvira Bary, a writer, and today I'll share what it was like growing up in the dying Soviet Empire. Back in the 1980s, we kids had no idea the Soviet Union was doomed. We thought it was America that was on the brink of collapse. Our world seemed so stable. We were convinced that the USSR was simply the best at everything, from figure skating to having the tastiest milk produced by our most glorious Soviet cows. We'd gone to space first. We read more books than any other nation, and we'd suffered the biggest losses during World War II. The huge neon sign across the street even promised that communism was right around the corner. Never mind that one letter in the sign had burned out. It was the adults who were worried about politics. When we visited relatives, the grown-ups would gather in the kitchen to discuss the Afghan war, Chernobyl, or the government's anti-alcohol campaign. Alcoholism was a huge issue in the USSR. I could do a whole video on why drinking was so common among Soviet men. If anyone's interested in a deep dive into Soviet drinking culture, let me know in the comments. I'll spill all the secrets. Right across from my house was a famous beer kiosk, where factory workers lined up for a pint after work. It was practically a men's club, complete with boxing matches and all the gentlemanly entertainment you could imagine. In the 1985, the government launched a massive anti-alcohol campaign. Prices shot up by 45%, but all it did was empty the sugar shelves. People stockpiled it for making homemade booze. They shut down our beer kiosk, but then very next day, little old ladies in colorful headscarves were selling vodka at the factory gates, bottles hidden under their coats. This was my first encounter with business. Until then, I couldn't even imagine anyone selling things just to make money. My dad didn't drink, but even he bought a few bottles of vodka and stashed them into the hollow of my piano. This is our strategic reserve, he told me. In the USSR, vodka was like currency. You could pay off the plumber with it, trade it for a sack of potatoes, or bribe a train conductor for a spot in the sleeping car if you couldn't get tickets. The economy kept getting worse, and soon we had ration coupons for everything. This led to Perestroika, which allowed for some private enterprise. For us kids, it was a blast. Suddenly, you could buy little pocket calendars with photos of cities. We treasured them. Visiting those places wasn't likely, but having a collection of colorful city photos made you seem sophisticated. New things started appearing in markets too. Posters with Michael Jackson, purple hairspray, and t-shirts with foreign words. We had no idea what these t-shirts said, they just looked cool. In Moscow and St. Petersburg, intellectuals started reading Solzhenitsyn, Bulgakov, and other authors who were once banned. But I was more interested in horoscopes. Until then, I'd never even heard of them, but now they were in almost every newspaper. This was a total revelation. Ordinary little Elvira suddenly learned she was a Scorpio. Persistence, willpower, magnetism. I didn't know what half of it meant, but I memorized those fancy words for when I wanted to sound smart. Then we found out we had Chinese zodiac signs as well. Chinese influence crept into our lives in other ways too. At the Gorky car factory where my parents worked, salaries were delayed. So the management started raffling off Chinese blankets and thermoses. One day, my mom even won an enormous, incredibly heavy coat made of dog fur that looked like an Eskimo outfit. The moths in our closet were thrilled. They had it all to themselves since it was impossible to wear. We were also introduced to crime and sex. Once at my aunt's house, I saw a newspaper with photos of half-naked women with black rectangles on the most interesting parts. I took it into the bathroom, locked the door, and trembling at every sound, read an article about prostitutes. I got away with it, but I was emotionally scarred for a long time. Not just by what I read, but by the fact that I've been interested in reading it. On TV, they kept saying communism was just around the corner, but in reality, our stores were nearly empty. The shelves only held bird juice, bay leaves, and canned seaweed. By the way, do you know what bird juice is? If not, ask me in the comments. Meanwhile, the Baltic republics were breaking away from the USSR, but I barely noticed. I discovered the Angelique novels, a French historical adventure series that was taking the Soviet Union by storm. When I got a new volume, I dived headfirst into the 17th century, a world of glamorous outfits, duels, and passionate kisses. Sometimes there was even sex. By then, I'd read enough newspaper articles that I could easily pick up on the French author's subtle hints. The adventures of the beautiful Angelique were way more exciting than the collapse of the Soviet Union. I still remember when I found out that my country no longer existed. My mom and I had just left the store when she casually said, "Did you hear the USSR broke up? I think something's happening in Moscow." "Will it happen here too?" I asked, hopeful. After all those books, I was ready to fight on the barricades or at least wave a flag. But my mom just said that nothing had happened in our city since the Mongol invasion. So we just went home,